Just saw some pictures of Caelan. I was training on the pitch there. Would you be hopeful he'd be in the mix for selection on Friday?
Yeah, hopefully. Gary as well. So I've still got the final selection decisions to make, but yeah, you train well.
And given your options in the back row, I presume that unless Josh is 100% fit, that somebody else can easily step into his shoes.
Yeah, we've got obviously good options. Scott Penny as well. Will Connors is back training. Rhys Ruddock, obviously Max Deegan. So there's some good options there for us. But we'll wait and see on Josh. Obviously, see how that plays out. But yeah, there's some good options in the back row.
Just tell me, what did you take from Leicester's win over Edinburgh? A funny enough game. What was your main takeaway from the Leinster point of view?
Well, I thought it was very similar to our game. Played in really difficult conditions, and they just mastered the conditions better than Edinburgh. Really, their kicking game is excellent. They're very good in the air. They pride themselves on their set piece defence. They're what we call battle defence, defending their own 22. And I thought they were just more accurate during the course of the 80 minutes. Obviously, it was very difficult for both teams. So they'll be delighted with the win because Edinburgh, when you looked at the side on paper, and we only played them a couple of weeks ago, we knew how strong Edinburgh were. So they'll be delighted with the win. It sets them up, obviously, to come here on Friday when, obviously, this time last year we went to them.
Do you think, given their game plan, it's a lot of kicking, do you think when there were so many Irish guys involved in that England match and there was a lot of kicking by England, would Leicester be tempted to change up so much, or is that just embedded into their way of playing? But they must try something different to try and upset you guys, or are you expecting them to play their usual game?
I think it's probably a bit unfair to say they kick everything all the time. I've certainly shown the lads plenty of moments where they've moved the ball and played a more expansive game. I know Richard Wigglesworth's done a great job since he's coming in the interim role, where he's tried to evolve their attack. You can see that. Hundred Pollard's playing really well now. They've got Dan Kelly back, who I'm certain will figure against us, who's a high quality player, in the midfield, and lots of options in the back three as well. So, whilst they are traditional in their mindset of playing the kicking game and the set piece game, I think there's more to them than that, to be honest.
Do you find that there's more pressure or expectancy on Leinster, given the nature of the narrow defeat, the late defeat last year and the previous couple of years in the European Cup? Does it build up year on year, that Leinster need to get the job done this season?
Well, to be honest, the pressure's on both teams because it's a knockout game, so you don't build up pressure. You know what I mean? There is pressure on a knockout game. All it takes is set it off in the first 5 minutes, you're down to 14, and suddenly, anything can happen. So each game starts from 0, and each game at the moment is a knockout game for us. So, Ulster was hugely challenging in terms of pressure. I thought we managed that well, but as I say, completely different circumstances this Friday. So you don't listen to the external pressure. You're dealing with it yourself internally. And it's knockout rugby, so that's pressure in itself.
Thanks, Stuart. Best of luck.
Thanks.
Hi, Stuart. How are things? How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
So, Gary Ringrose is back fit to start the weekend. In the absence of having Johnny Sexton in the back line, how big of an impact is it to have someone like Gary Ringrose as a leader as much as anything else in the back line?
Yeah, obviously, Johnny leaves a huge void, but there's a lot of leadership in the back line now anyway. If you took the Ulster game at the weekend without Gary in it, Ross Byrne was excellent, James Ingham Park excellent, Robbie really stepped up, Hugo ran the backfield really well. Everyone contributes really. It's this notion of one leader being the only person that influences the team's direction is wrong really, and it's definitely an advantage to have Gary back in there because of his experience, but because of his ability more so than anything. So he's a world-class player in my opinion, and he will lead with his actions, but he's also very, very good in leading the defensive mindset of the group as well. So he'll be a great voice this week, but more importantly, he'll be a great player hopefully.
Could you also, like, another player who's in amazing form at the moment is Ryan Baird. Could you just tell me a little bit about what you've seen in terms of his progression this season?
Well, again, it just comes down to experience, really. I think it comes down to playing in big games and dealing with the pressure of international rugby, European rugby. And when you're young, often you go through this sort of steep learning curve. You plateau a bit, and then the best players kick on. And Ryan's definitely in that category, where steep learning curve, and then he has to obviously find another gear, because obviously people start to study him a bit more and work out what his strengths and weaknesses are. And his job then is to eradicate the weaknesses and keep building on his strengths, and that's what he's done exceptionally well. To play that Grand Slam game, against England and deal with the pressure of that occasion. He definitely seems more and more confident on a daily basis, but it's based on a strong foundation. He's very, very diligent in terms of his work ethic. He's always mentally prepared, and he's playing exceptional rugby. He's a fantastic athlete, but he's a fantastic rugby player as well. And when you marry the two, the rugby and the athlete, with the mental side of the game that he's now got, he deserves to be an international player, and he's certainly playing that way at the moment.
I was just asking James Lowe about it a little bit. The players who came back from the Grand Slam winning triumph with Ireland, do you notice anything different about them when they come back into camp? Like emotionally, like being more confident or being in better form physically? Is there anything different about them since they come back in? Did they add more impetus to the group as a whole? Has it changed your dressing room at all?
No, not really. No. Obviously, they enjoyed the moment, which is quite right, and what we needed to do was integrate them back into not necessarily Leinster Rugby, but more the call-in system, which is obviously different, and get them back on the evolution and the development that we've made in their absence. Because whilst they've been away playing with Ireland, we've been playing URC games and involving our own game plan and our own thoughts. So it's more a case of meeting in the middle, so to speak. But once we've got through that initial reintegration process, it's almost second nature to them, because they've been here and played here for so long, they spend the majority of their working year at Leinster, and obviously they leave to go into play international rugby. So no, it's more seamless than you'd think, but also they have that probably inner confidence and belief that they got the job done as well. But as you know, that counts for nothing really in every game, because every game starts from zero. So you've got to still deliver. You can't rest on your laurels of winning a Grand Slam and hope that's going to see you through in European rugby, because we've learnt over the last 6-7 years, every game's a knockout game from now on.
Just one last one from me. If Leicester try to impose a very attritional game on Friday, I'm interested what your preparation for that is. Do you want to beat them at their own game, match them physically and just beat them that way, or do you want to try to maybe arrest the flow of the game so that you're playing it more on your own terms and you're playing out around them? How would you like Leinster to impose their game?
Well, you've got to do both, really. You've got to respect the opposition. You've got to deal with their threats, and they've got threats. Not just in terms of like improving their attacking game. Their key players, Montoya, Jasper V's, Pollard's playing really well at the moment. Jack Van Pol for 89's excellent. Dan Kelly back in the equation. Obviously, throughout the pack, they're experienced players. So yes, they'll try and impose their game on us, but also it's about us putting our game on the field as well. So you can't ignore that, what they're going to do, and you've got to prepare for that. But equally, it's about putting Leinster's DNA on the field as well, particularly when we're at home on Friday night at the Aviva. Great service, fingers crossed it's not going to be pouring down with rain like the Ulster game, and it should be a great spectacle. So it's a combination of the two. You've got to respect the opposition and plan for their strengths, but equally not deviate from what our strengths are.
Good luck on Friday. Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks.
Yeah, hi Stuart. Just wondering, Leicester having a 7-day turnaround and Leicester having a 7-day turnaround and Leinster having a 6-day turnaround. Does that give Leicester a slight advantage?
Yeah, I guess so. It depends on how they structured their working week. Certainly for us, it's definitely tighter. There's been a lot of work had to be done today more so in terms of reviewing Ulster, learning, and then turning the page to Leicester. So physically, there's less work you do, but we've got a very experienced group now, so it helps having played them last year. That I can refresh them on the preparation that we did last time, what happened at the Welford Road game, and then obviously we've got the additions to their team who weren't there last year, who we need to study and understand the evolution of their game plan as well. So it's been a busy day today, but that's just the way it is. We can't train any more or any harder. We've just got to let the boys rest and recover from Ulster, mentally prepare, physically prepare on Wednesday, Thursday, and then roll up on Friday.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering the way the draws worked out, and Leinster at home for the quarter-final, then if you beat Leicester at home for the semi, and obviously if you get through the semi, the final is in the Aviva. Is that a kind of does that play into players' minds, do you think?
Well, the main goal is just to get to where we've got to, i.e. like give ourselves the best chance of getting a home last 16, home last quarter-final. So we've achieved the home quarter-final. You can't get too far ahead of yourself and start thinking about what happens in a home semi-final, because it's a knockout game and anything can happen on Friday night. So yeah, there'll be no looking ahead. The only thing we're looking at is Friday, and hopefully with a great crowd behind us. It was amazing, the weekend, to get another great crowd on Friday night. The Aviva really is a great surface to play on, great width, and to have the crowd behind us and play in front of our fans is a huge motivation. So nothing beyond Friday night. That's the goal, and we'll see where we are after that.
And finally, for me, are you expecting quite a nutritional game again in terms of playing Leicester, who have a certain style, and adapting to a nutritional game? Is that difficult sometimes?
I think it's a bit unfair in Leicester to describe them as attritional. They've won the last 6 games on the bounce, and it hasn't just been all through attrition. They've played some really good rugby as well. They're tough. They're a very tough team, very hard working, fit. You can see the quality of their set piece on both sides of the ball, attack and defence. Their desire to want to defend in their own 22, their toughness in the breakdown, and some of their key players are, world-class players who really galvanise their team. So, we'll just be making sure that we get our bits and pieces right and build that mentality for the full 80 on Friday night.